Welcome to the extreme casual Friday hangout for schoolofbookkeeping.com. Accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners.
Good morning.
We have a light crowd to start with, but a good crowd. That's all that matters. So I guess we have some.
First, hang out with your new and improved large mic.
My blue from Yeti, and it has knobs. It has extra knobs. I actually had to read the manual to understand what this does, but it has different settings like omnidirectional.
Oh, that's nice when you're singing.
Yeah, and I sing all the time, so this is great for me. So in fact, I still have the manual right here on my desk. I'm still going through it to make sure I understand exactly how to use it, and it's got pretty pictures. See. And the pretty pictures explain those different settings and what it can do. But where this comes from, I'll share a funny story with you. So, in fact, the very topic of today's hangout, it ties right in, because we had gotten a bunch of questions on the Facebook group from people who were saying that they wanted to, they wanted advice, I guess, if you will, based on the fact that, and it seems like coincidentally 2 or 3 people had the identical situation. They had moved, and they were now going to have to rebuild their bookkeeping practice, and they wanted sort of advice or guidance along those lines. And so I went to, one person asks it, and people chime in, and then another person asks essentially the same question, and people chime in, and I'm like, wow, this is a hot topic. So last weekend I sat down, and yay, people are getting in. I sat down and I recorded. At first I wrote an outline, essentially aimed at answering this question from my own perspective, and then I started recording videos last weekend. And at this point, I've been recording videos for so long, I don't really test things as much as I used to. So I spent an entire day last Saturday, and I recorded a whole series for the Too Legit to Audit blog, because I haven't really put much out there lately. And so that was another thing, is I was like, I needed something good and juicy for the blog, so this was going to be it. And I recorded, and I'm actually learning more and more to keep the videos shorter and shorter. I mean, I've known that for a long time, but I'm actually finally disciplining myself to do it, to keep the videos under 5 minutes, and if possible down to 3. So I recorded all this video. I was so excited. I was like, cool, now I can spend all day Sunday just editing video and, writing the posts and getting it all ready. And I go to record something else. I think on Sunday at one point I recorded a video, and that one I played back, and the audio was only coming out of one side on my headset, and I'm like, uh-oh. So I'm like, I hope this wasn't happening yesterday when I was recording. And sure enough, everything I had recorded, the entire day's worth of work, shot to hell, just gone dead.
When that happens.
Yeah. And I was so mad. So, but at the same time, it hit me. I've been wanting to get back to Best Buy, which is a dangerous place for me to go.
Yeah, I can't go with that as chaperone.
But I've been wanting to go back there for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to get a new TV for our bedroom here in our home. We were actually watching this tiny little TV for probably like 2 years, because we had a big TV in there and it died, and I was just like lazy about it. And my wife's mom had given us this old TV of hers, which was this little box of a TV. I mean, it was smaller than the monitor I'm looking at now. And but it was no big deal. We don't watch that much TV in the bedroom, so we sort of lived with it. So I wanted to get a new big TV, and now I needed a new microphone. Plus, I had returned my Beats by Dre headset that I had bought, which was interesting because I had bought it like 2 years ago. I didn't realize how long it had been, and probably only within a few months of what?
They took it back?
They did. They took it back for store credit. They wouldn't refund my money, which I got. I was grateful they even took it back. But they gave me store credit.
But you were buying a TV too, so.
That's like a $300 headset, though. So.
Wow.
So, and I had bought it in 2012. The coolest thing was, and here's a testimonial for Evernote, is using Evernote, I was able to find the receipt in 30 seconds from 2 years ago. So, to me, that's impressive. But what do you call it? So, a bird a squirrel. So but the thing is, the headset had actually broken within only a few months of when I bought it. So I was sort of mad about it, but it's my own fault for sitting on it for so long. But yeah, they gave me store credit, so I had like a $300 credit. So between,
Seth, I just wanted to note that when you sit on your headset, it will break.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I thought it would make a good butt cushion, but it didn't work out that way. No. So I had a $300 store credit. I kicked in like $150 of my, I don't want to say my own money, but additional money. And between that, I was able to get a nice little 38-inch flat screen TV, and I was able to get this microphone, which is about $150.
Wow.
So
that's an impressive mic.
Now I'm going to be able to record my videos, and so the cool thing is that it has these different settings on the microphone, which I haven't learned all of them yet, but it has stereo, it has cardioid, it has omnidirectional, and it has bidirectional. I'm glad it has the bi thing, Exactly. So for stereo, I guess it says this is good for vocals, ensemble, choir, and instruments. So that's your singing, Sarah, is stereo.
Love it.
Cardioid, which is like a little sideways heart symbol, is what I should have. It is. And that is for podcasts, voiceovers, vocals, so that's for singing also, vocals, and instruments.
And that's a sideways heart. That's the symbol for that.
Oh boy, I better not go near Best Buy.
Yep. And then omnidirectional is for conference calls, field recordings, events, or orchestras.
Dang.
Okay. And then there's bidirectional, my favorite, which is for interviews, instruments, and vocal duets. So, cool. Sarah, if you come to California, we can sing a duet together.
Okay, we tried it later.
You can play with Seth's mic.
There we go. So, but it's interesting how the whole story of why I bought the mic ties directly into today's topic, which is because I had a failed day of recordings, which led me to realize I need a new mic, and now I've got one. So this weekend, I will be re-recording that series that I've wanted to do, and we'll roll it out. But I thought today, hopefully, we'll get lots of great feedback and input from people. I'll show you my outline so far, and you guys can help me develop it further, add things in, and this way you guys will have a direct hand in creating the content that I'll be rolling out on Too Legit to Audit, hopefully this week, coming up on how to grow your accounting or bookkeeping practice.
Awesome.
So,
and you have to spend money to make money. Sometimes.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Sarah.
Sometimes you have to invest.
Which is no fun.
I think Sarah wants to invest in some music.
I think Sarah wants a Yeti blue microphone.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of research on that before.
And what have you found? What microphones have you learned about that you thought might be good?
That's the one that's been top on my list.
This is the one. See, and they had the snowball one too, but that was...
Yeah, that had just come out when I looked at it, yeah.
What's funny is, though, it's a lot less expensive, and that in itself made me weary, like, okay, is it as good? And that's kind of the perception, which is an interesting thing from, like, a marketing standpoint and pricing. When I sort of observe my own behavior, and I see that something is a lot cheaper, and it's the same brand, same company, they have one that's $150 and one that's, like, $60, and I'm like, I become skeptical about the $60 one. Like, you get what you pay for.
Right.
So that's the way my brain works. Marnie's with us for the first time ever, I think. By the way, good morning, Marnie.
Looking a little gray there, Marnie.
Yeah. What's your camera pointing at there? Are you hiding?
You can't hear me, can you?
Yes,
yeah,
we can.
Hear you.
We can hear you. It sounds like you're moving boxes around or something.
Oh Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was on the call last week and I was cleaning my kitchen and I was like, I don't think they can hear me. Okay.
Last
So
week, I don't think we did hear you last week.
I'm on in a completely different way today, and I'm cleaning my kitchen. I'm so sorry.
Hysterical.
No, let us see. We want to see.
Tape over your camera.
Of course I did.
Look, we could learn something from you about cleaning our kitchen.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry. You can mute me if you want. I'm totally enjoying the hangout, and one of these days I'll actually get in front of my camera and my webcam, and I'll
That would be amazing because that is, of course, the purpose.
I'm dipping my toe in the water. I'm a lurker.
I understand.
I miss you guys. I hope to see you at QB Connect.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So I'm just quickly checking on my email here because I think everybody's able to get in fine now. But it looks
I had a hard time getting in. I had a hard time finding the invite.
Oh, that's weird.
So did I.
It wasn't where it normally was.
That's weird, and I didn't get any error messages this time.
It just kind of buried down at the bottom of the page. It wasn't like, you know, when you click on the messages, you get like, that's where it usually is.
That's where I got mine. Now, Seth, I have to ask you, does it tell you that it does a quiet invite? Did you know that there was such a thing as a quiet invite?
Yeah, mine, it will, when I do it sort of secondarily, like if I do it right now from within the Hangout where I click to invite people, then it does. And it doesn't allow me to do it any other way because I have too many people in my circles. So it doesn't give me the choice, really.
Okay.
It looks like I have a choice, but it doesn't give me the choice. So I have to do the quiet invite. I have to be careful in general. It seems to, like from School of Bookkeeping's page, you know, which is where we're broadcasting this from, I think I'm also kind of limited because I think pages in general are limited. So what I usually do is I invite, you know, what I can. I have like my VIP circle, which is the people who are normally here in this panel every week, and others who I figure might be interested. And for those of you listening, if you're hearing this and you want to make sure you're in that circle so you can be in the live panel with us here, just let me know. It's not like a, you know, we're not elitist here. It's just that I have to have a limited number of people that I invite to the live panel, so I have a special circle for that. But then what I do is, of course, included in the School of Bookkeeping pages circles is my sort of personal Seth David, a.k.a. Nerd, Google Plus profile, and from that profile, I can invite like 700 people. I have 2 different circles in that profile that I in turn sort of invite through that profile. And so ultimately I'm able to invite like 700 people at least to come and watch the Hangout. So if you're watching on the live event page and you would like to participate directly, we would love to have you. So just let me know, and I'll make sure that you get a direct and, if necessary, personal invite. So, you know, in school when teachers would say, "Do you need a personal invitation?" We will actually give you a personal invitation. I used to hear that a lot. I wasn't a very... You can imagine the kind of student I probably was.
Well, I have to say, Rhonda put on the event that she's watching live. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, Rhonda. We miss you.
She has the carpet cleaners there. So apparently today is cleaning day.
Really? Rhonda, send them to my house afterwards. So, yeah, I guess Yvette was having trouble, but she's here with us now.
Yes. Hi, Seth. How you
Hi,
doing?
Yvette. Good morning. How are you?
Great. Just
Cool.
got back from vacation a few days ago.
Where did you go?
Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. Nice.
Yes, loved it. Didn't want to come back.
Do you go there a lot?
Yeah, I have relatives up there.
I've always wanted to go there. I've never been.
It's gorgeous. We laid out and beat on the lake all day long most of the days, and went up to this Sierraville and looked at some colt farm, and just had a great time with family.
That's awesome.
Really nice.
Wow.
My
I've
daughter.
always wanted to go there. I love skiing, although I haven't done it in years. I used to go skiing a lot when I was in college. And I mean, from what I understand, Lake Tahoe is a great spot to go skiing at in the wintertime.
It is. My cousin used to teach at North Star, and we used to go skiing all the time, free passes there.
Right. So, yeah, I'm dying to get up there. And then my wife, I remember telling me at one point years ago that she would love to live in Truckee, which is kind of like right next to Lake Tahoe.
Yes, one of my cousins lives right in Truckee, so we go there a lot. Beautiful place. She had her house custom done. Her ex-husband was a contractor and built her home, and it's just gorgeous. Love it over there. It's, you know, because of the kind of work we do, or any kind of work you do, it's so nice for me to just get out in the great outdoors and just totally unplug from business. It's such a nice feeling. I'd love to own a second home there. It's just a beautiful place.
That's awesome. Good for you. I'm glad you had an enjoyable vacation.
Thanks.
So we're past 8:15 now. It's time to get into our topic of the week. We're already kind of on it. So just to, now that we're live, to fill in some of the background on this, in our Facebook group for accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners,
ABBO.
ABO. My wife is telling me to shut up.
I'd have a hangout with you, not
She's
talking.
in rare form these days. Anyway, in our Facebook group, we've had a series of people, actually not this past week, but the one before, but last Friday we already had a topic, so I couldn't do this. But we had a bunch of people coming in and kind of saying, hey, I've just moved and I have to start my bookkeeping practice all over. What do you suggest I do to rebuild the practice? So for that matter, of course, the underlying topic is in general, how do you build your accounting or bookkeeping practice? What are some suggestions that we might have? And so, as I was telling you, and I think I was telling this before we went live, the whole reason I went and bought a new microphone was because I had gone ahead and started to record a series answering that question in, short little video bursts, which was intended for the Too Legit to Audit blog. And I'm still going to do it, but I have to re-record the stuff because I effectively lost everything because my other mic, wasn't working properly. So, in any case, I thought it'd be a good opportunity, now that I haven't, tied it all up yet. What happened to Sarah?
I think she's having problems.
There's some technical issues.
Yeah.
She says, I can see you, Sarah, and you are moving. Okay. Sorry, hopefully Sarah comes back. So, what I thought it would be good to do is kind of show you guys the outline I have. But even before I show you the outline, let's go around the horn, and we'll start with Dennis. Dennis, how long have you been in business for?
I officially started my business 10 years ago, 2004. I was a corporate employee for 27 years, and I decided after going to job interviews, it was like come back when you're younger type of interviews, that I would start my own business. And so I worked for Robert Half, and I saw how little they were doing for me. One time I got parked in their back office, and I saw just how little the representatives were doing in terms of marketing, so I decided just to skip the middleman and just start my own business. The thing that I think that people don't realize going from a corporate employee to a self-employed is the value of your time. When you're employed, you get paid no matter what you do. When you're self-employed, you only get paid when you have billable hours and collect. And so I think that you really need to focus on maximizing the value of your time, which to me means talking to people that would be interested in your business and not waste time trying to figure out, try to appeal to everybody.
Gotcha. And so how did you go about marketing your business and building and growing it?
Well, I first started out... What was that?
Technical issues.
I don't know where that's coming from.
It sounds like something's playing somewhere on your...
Old-timey radio.
I get these random videos on, if I have websites open, especially like CNN, I get these random videos that just sort of pop in, and it's a hard time finding where they are. So I think I got rid of it. When you first start out, you're it's emphasized the importance of networking. So I started networking. I joined a chamber of commerce. I joined a master builders group, and the thing I was finding is that there were a lot more sellers than there were buyers. And I think the critical thing is to, as soon as possible, figure out who your ideal customer is or client is, and only look in places where you're going to either find them or find people that have access to them. And I mean, everybody's going to try to sell you on these meetup groups like the Tip and BNI, that everybody's trying to sell you the idea that you're going to get all these customers by joining their group. But I think the critical point is to figure out who would need your service and market to them, and not try to, if you're going to join a chamber, join a smaller chamber, because you'll get a lot of people that are big companies like hotels and Office Max and Office Depot and Staples will be sending reps that are not going to be using my business. So it gets back to the time, money, and energy. You don't waste your time and your energy marketing people that don't have a need for your service.
Time, money, and energy. I love that.
TME, time, money, and energy.
So, and you hit on a few points that are in my outline, which, like I said, I'm going to share with you guys already, because I did mention networking groups, of course, and specifically BNI and the Tip that you've mentioned, so and the Chamber of Commerce. So I'll talk about that when it's my turn. Gina, how did you start your business? How long have you been in business, and how do you market your practice? And is it bookkeeping? Is it accounting? Tell us a little bit about it.
Actually, I've only been in business myself about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I worked for a CPA firm. The reason I went from the CPA firm to working for myself was because I had some personal things happen, and I couldn't spend 8 hours a day of my time giving to someone else. So I needed more time, and starting the business allowed me to work the hours that I could work, because I had time that I had to spend doing other things. Yeah, and I haven't really been marketing myself, because I'm still spending a lot of time dealing with these other things that I'm dealing with. I had a big client base, and I did start in the Chamber of Commerce's and going to meetings and that kind of thing. And when I said that I was a QuickBooks ProAdvisor, people would just come to me. Everybody needs bookkeeping.
Yep.
Now, at this point, my biggest source of new clients are my partners, and by my partners I mean other CPAs and accountants that don't like QuickBooks. There are many accountants that hate QuickBooks because they hate the reports they get. So they call me and they say, clean this mess up, and then bring the client back to me.
So let's be clear. They hate the reports they get because the accounting information itself needs cleaning up, or because they don't like QuickBooks reports?
Because the accounting stuff needs cleaned up.
Okay.
Those negative balances on the balance sheet just drive accountants crazy.
Yeah.
Right, Dennis?
Yeah. Something's wrong.
You want to hear a funny story about that? I had a bookkeeper that I worked with. This was years ago. I had, for those of you who know kind of my backstory, I had started Nerd Enterprises, and then I went and worked for a guy for a while as CFO. He's a real estate developer, and he had a wood flooring business here in Los Angeles, and I was his CFO. And then in 2007-ish, I went back to work for myself, essentially. I kept a couple of clients going on the side. And when I did that, I actually put an ad out. I said, this time I'm going all out. I incorporated, and I put ads out. I said, I'm just going to interview bookkeepers and bring them in and start really blowing this thing up. And so one of those bookkeepers that I ended up hiring was, believe it or not, he was a Harvard graduate. And he was, he was unemployed, but he had worked as a CFO, and he was looking for work, and he was willing to come and work for me as a bookkeeper, essentially, which I was surprised about. But I thought, my God, a Harvard grad, this could be potentially huge. Anyway, not sure about the whole background thing, but he started presenting balance sheets to me and my clients and the CPAs that were doing the taxes with negative balances on the balance sheet. And so I started asking him about that and questioning it and saying, no, this has to be cleaned up. We can't present the balance sheet. And it ended up evolving into like this whole argument where he accused me. How did he refer to me? He says, something about how he couldn't work for my quote unquote, or let's do it, ready? My quote unquote.
Second time today, Seth. Wow.
My difficult bookkeeping practice, as he called it. God forbid I wanted an actual balance sheet.
Harvard.
Yeah, I don't remember what his discipline that he got his degree in. I don't remember what it was. It might not have been accounting. It might have been like economics or something.
Probably English or something.
Anyway, so I always think that's a funny story. But anyway, sorry, Gina. So go ahead. So,
I do have my partners that I work with, and they are the biggest source of my QuickBooks consulting clients. I'm also doing bookkeeping. I have my own bookkeeping practice. I have a family member that actually does the bookkeeping for me. And I've been fine. I've been amazed. And actually some of my prior clients from the original CPA firm that I worked for have come back to me and say, please, please, can you work with me again? So it's my partners, referrals, the Intuit site, but not so much, because I find people that come in from the Intuit site are very price oriented. One of the luxuries that I have had personally is not bringing on every single client that comes to me. My specific ones that I want, I can deal with. I do have a target client that I like.
What is that, if you don't mind sharing?
Right now, I'm trying to grow my bookkeeping business. So it's a small business owner, generally in business 1 to 2 years startup. I want them at the very beginning so I can get them used to having the way things look correctly. So we lost you, Seth.
I muted myself for a minute because Ralphie's getting excited about the topic, as you might be able to hear in the background. So this is great stuff. I'm actually taking notes on my document that I'm going to share with you guys. I love what you just said about having target clients, having a specific idea of who you want as a client coming in the door. I think that makes such a big difference because it helps you focus your marketing efforts. Yay, Sarah's back.
Exactly.
It helps you, and I have a similar kind of profile that describes the kind of client I'm looking for. I mean, as you know, I'm not really, frankly, I'm not that interested in taking on consulting clients now because I'm so focused on schoolofbookkeeping.com and developing training materials, but I still somewhat live off of the consulting business. I actually got rid of some of the bigger consulting clients I had this year to free myself up because, especially with Eric's help, schoolofbookkeeping.com has been blowing up so fast, much faster than I ever would have expected this year. I mean, the number of subscribers we have today, considering we started in January, to me is like mind-blowing. I can't believe, and I owe a lot of it to Eric 74 Marketing. And so if and when you can afford to do it, I can't stress enough how important it is to get somebody to help you with marketing so that you can focus on what you do best. Even though you might be great at marketing, what I had to realize is, I think I've gotten pretty good at marketing over the years. I've developed a nice brand. People seem to know it in the accounting industry, but I can't do it all. So, Eric was like a lifesaver for me because now he can help me. He does the marketing. I can focus on content development and the creative part of everything that I do and what I really, really love to do. So that's a huge thing. But I love what you said, Gina, about having the profile. And Dennis, I love the concept of thinking in terms of time, energy, and money. Where is it best spent? I was just having this conversation with one of my mentors last night who I stopped and saw on my way before I went to the NAN chapter meeting, actually. And he was agreeing with me. I was saying I've gotten so much more focused this year on paying attention to where is my time best spent, and more importantly, where is it not being well spent? Because I, as I'm sure all of you guys are and girls are, at a point where my time is pretty much maxed out. So in order to do anything different or take anything new on, I have to free something else up. at this point. And so it becomes a very careful decision I have to make, or I really have to take a look at where am I spending my time and where is my time not well spent. And then I have to start retracting and doing less of that to free up time, because a lot of times I can't just move that quickly and say, okay, well, I want to do this, so I'm just going to eliminate that from my life. I have to sort of plan ahead and always make sure I have gaps in my time. And of course, this is different. This is a different problem to have versus what we're talking about today, which is when you're starting out. How do I get from having all the time in the world to having no time like we have, right? So I love what you're saying. The networking, right? The time, energy, and money, focusing on that. I love to say to people who are sort of new, starting a business, is your full-time job is getting clients. That's what you have to do. You have to spend all of your time hitting up the internet, going to the job boards, looking for part-time job wanted ads, responding to them and suggesting that by hiring you they'll save money on the employer taxes, by hiring you as a subcontractor, all that stuff. That's what I used to do. And I used to hit up
one qualifying thing, like Dennis always said, they have to be willing and able to pay you.
Yeah, vet them.
Right.
Not either or.
Yep. So that brings us to, well, I guess Marnie's just lurking. But Marnie, if you're there and you hear us and you want to chime in, feel free. Let me know. We'll give it a few seconds. If not, we'll go to Sarah, and then if need be, we can come back to Marnie. So Sarah, how do you market your business? What do you do? How do you do it?
I don't.
Okay. I like that strategy.
I have been downsizing a little bit every year. Last year I dropped 19 clients.
Wow.
So I've completely changed my focus, and I've always been, say the last 15 years, very selective on who I take, because I've learned that one bad client, and they don't even have to be a bad client, they can just be a difficult client, can change the whole. I don't know. I tell my employees that, if when you come to work, it's such a huge part of your life that you don't want to walk in and go, oh, I'm at work. Or when that one client's work shows up, or they show up, everybody goes, who can I get them to do, who can do it this month? If I have a client like that, then it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So I wanted to focus on my third-party app, and I also wanted to focus on completely revamping my practice. So if anybody's starting out, I highly recommend 3 books. The Intentional Accountant.
Darren Root. I got to get him on here one week.
What's it called again?
The Intentional Accountant.
Okay.
Yeah, The Intentional Accountant.
It's by Darren Root, Yvette. I got to get him in here on a hangout. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, any of the E-Myth books are fantastic. 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. I've got monkeys everywhere. And the E-Myth Accountant.
I have that.
And it's basically, well, I've redone all my contracts, all my engagement letters. I've made a firm manual, and I needed to systemize everything. And what I found was, through the years, staff that are really good would devise their own systems, and then I never had problems, so they're quiet, so I let them. And then somebody else would come on, and they're good, but they needed more of my time or more attention. And what I found is everybody was doing everything differently. So the reason I dropped so many clients last year is I really wanted to focus on, I wanted to get really small again, regroup, and then slowly add if I want to. But when I went on my own in 1988, and then my biggest, I was 110 clients, 6 employees, offices, overhead. I hated it. And when you get that big, you have to deal with drama and employees and turnover.
But how did you get that big? I mean, thinking back to when you started from ground zero, how did you initially attract clients and get to the point where you had to lose clients?
Well, I had a very unique situation in that I was the director of accounting services of small businesses for a large CPA firm. Mm-hmm. And we they said it merged, but we were bought out by Price Waterhouse. So after about a year and a half, PW cut my department loose. So I bought it. So I walked down the street with a ready-made company.
Okay, so but still, those clients could have all said, you know what, if you're not part of that company, I'm going to go away. So the bottom line is, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like you leveraged relationships that you had with people. I mean, yes, you made a move.
They knew me. They were not going to stay or leave because I had such a personal relationship with them, and they knew that their number one, their fee was cut 25%, and then they still had me. So most of my work has been reputation. You know, it's like when my brother came to town and he wanted to start his own business, and I said, when I found that ad, I said, look, the name Laidlaw is gold in this town. All you have when you're a service service business is your reputation, and protect it like gold. And he's done a beautiful job. I'm real proud of him. So, but the funniest thing was he called me one day and he goes, "Sis," I said, "how do you find the work, do the work, you know, all at the same time?" And I said, "Welcome to self-employment." It really sucks. I said, "Sometimes you work 80 hours a week or whatever, and if you averaged it, you're making $5 an hour. You know, it's just if you you know, sometimes when you're beginning out, you've got to invest so much of your time and life that you know, you think, what have I done? Why don't I just, you know, go get a job? But if you stick with it and get that reputation and just keep honing your skills and get, you know, get better and better and better. I somehow became the nonprofit queen. I don't know how that happened, but you know, once I realized that there was such a need and I was, you know, good in that niche, then, you know, I go out of my way to really understand the industry.
So you specialized. You got into a niche, you found something that you really liked that you could get really good at, and you specialized, because not everybody does nonprofits. I don't do nonprofits. I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, they're one of the worst accounting-wise. But, you know, if you get into inventory, manufacturing, I'm an accountant. I know theory. I know the software. I'm smart. I can figure it out. But I can't just instantly. I don't have enough experience to just know it. So.
Right,
one of the things I did wrong in the beginning was I was certified in Real World, Peachtree, QuickBooks, Intuit, and I found that I couldn't learn all these products inside and out. Exactly. Hardcore. So I got in bed with Intuit, but you know, Doug Sleater has taught me to you still need to know about all the other products and be able to know when what you're really good at is not a good fit for clients, or diversify. You don't want to have you get too many eggs in the Intuit basket, but
well, yeah, I think you got to keep your eyes on what the market is looking for, right? So
forward-looking thoughts. You're always looking ahead, and
yeah. I mean, we all chose QuickBooks because that's what most people were using, right? I know when I started out and I looked at it, and back then there were still people using Peachtree and some other an MYOB, which you almost never hear of anymore. And I was looking at all those and at first I thought, well, I should learn all of them. But then the more I looked around, you know, and when I looked at, you know, what was a clue for me, I looked at the help wanted ads on Craigslist. That's where I originally went to build my business, was Craigslist. In those days, it was like a gold mine because it was newer and it wasn't flooded with the spam that it's flooded with now. But I would go into Craigslist and look at the help wanted ads, and I noticed that most of the companies that were hiring wanted you to have QuickBooks skills. And so that gave me a clue that most people were using QuickBooks. Most companies who would be potentially clients of mine wanted you to know QuickBooks. That's why we all, I think, dove in and drank the QuickBooks Kool-Aid, because that's what people want. And I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Somebody, you know, brought up, you know, some of these other packages that are out there, and I recently had a client ask me, or a prospect, I should say, ask me about helping him with Mass 90. And I said, I really don't know Mass 90. I have limited experience with it, but it's not something. And then, a bookkeeper that works for me, who went to see the client who this person was sort of referred by, and they're in the same office space. So he was talking with the guy, and the guy started talking with him about Mass 90. And the bookkeeper called me up, and he says, hey, you know what? I'm willing to take the time to learn Mass 90 so we can take on this client. And you go back to what Dennis said about time, money, and energy. And I told him, I said, it's not a good investment of time, money, and energy for us, because for the 2 clients a year that will come in and ask us about this that might become clients, it's not worth it. And you're going to spend all kinds of time. And I've played with Mass 90. It's not an easy program to learn. The last experience I had with it, which I'll admit was years ago, it was so impossible to move around the GL. And in this particular case, the client had really 2 or 3 different bank accounts that really represented one bank account in their general ledger, because somebody had set up one bank account just for the credit card payments that came in, and another bank account for cash and checks, but they were really the same bank. And so it was impossible to reconcile, because it's not like QuickBooks where I could easily move and merge the accounts together and then start reconciling.
Spoiled with the undoability and the...
Yeah. So it's not, you got to look at, so when Xero came onto the marketplace, the first time I heard about Xero, my first reaction to it was, I'll wait, I'll see what happens. Let's see if this thing gets traction, because I'm not going to spend time on something if it doesn't. And then over time, when I started to get traction, a point in time was reached where I said, I better learn this thing, because there's enough people who want to use it and want to know more about it. And I at least want to make sure that I'm always in a position as the expert that people are coming to for questions and guidance to be able to answer those questions and to be able to, and what I don't want to ever do is I don't want to dissuade somebody from checking out a product just because I don't know anything about it.
Exactly.
And I've seen people do that. It's like their ego steps in, and they don't want to admit that they don't know the product, so they just say, it's garbage, and it's like, right. Really? Anyway, let's move along. Yvette, tell us a little bit about how you started your business, how you marketed it, especially at the beginning when you had no clients.
Well, I used to work for a CPA, and I was going through a divorce, and I needed to have more income than what I was getting at with the CPA. So I started one day I just decided I'm going to do this on my own. And it just so happened that everywhere I went, gatherings at my daughter's school or whatever, I would people would ask me, so what are you doing now, and I'd tell them I just started my bookkeeping business. And before you knew it, friends of mine that owned businesses, they wanted me to start doing their bookkeeping, and just word of mouth. And then I did get into B&I for about a month, and I did not like it. I didn't have the time. It just didn't feel right for me. I'm still a member of the chamber since I think 2006. I've been in business for 8 years now. And what happened was I would get clients that they had an accountant, and that accountant was the same accountant. I'd get a new client, and that client would have that same accountant. So the accountant started. Sent me an email and told me, I want to refer business to you. I really like the way you do the bookkeeping. So she has been a lot how I get business, and we refer business to one another. And also I have a very good presence on Google. I rank #1 for bookkeeping services in Walnut Creek. So I've never really had to pay for marketing. It's just something that I did. Years ago, I had this accountant referred me to a major corporation, and they contacted me via email and asked to see my website and what type of services I offer. At the time, I did not have a website, and I had my domain name, but I never needed one. And so I immediately that weekend just went on and got a website. I made it myself. It was not the greatest. Recently, I had my website redone, and now I'm not embarrassed to show anybody my website. It worked for me. I mean, I got a lot of clients, and so I put it up, and then I went on Google to see where I ranked, and I noticed I was nowhere on Google. So I did a lot of research on the internet, became very obsessed on ranking #1, and just did it. It took about 3 to 4 weeks, and since then, I've been the #1 bookkeeping service in Walnut Creek. So I get probably a good 75% of my clients through word of mouth, and the other 25% is through Google.
Okay, so again, we heard networking, we heard local search, right? And then one of the last things you touched on that I love reminds me of something else that seems to have popped back up in my life, which is the idea of getting obsessed with a goal, right? You got obsessed with the goal of becoming number one. I think that as a beginning practitioner starting an accounting or bookkeeping practice, you have to get obsessed with growing and building that practice. It has to be practically every waking thought you have is how am I going to get the first client? Then how am I going to get the next client? Networking is where it goes into getting referrals from CPAs, and Yvette just touched on an amazing point about how she got a CPA motivated to make referrals to her, and quite simply put, it was by doing a good job.
Right.
So make sure you know what you do.
Yeah.
Remember that when you do the work for a client as the bookkeeping service or as the bookkeeper, that a CPA is going to be putting eyes on your work, and likely they're going to be critical. I was just in a thread on LinkedIn this week where somebody from Deloitte & Touche was quoted as having said something very condescending about bookkeeping professionals. And it's rampant amongst CPAs is that they hear you're a bookkeeper, they just immediately assume you don't know what you're doing. It's like you're guilty until proven innocent. And that's unfortunate, but it's also because there have been a lot of people who've led them to believe that through direct experience. So the point, though, is you're getting to showcase your work every time you submit a client's work to a CPA to prepare the taxes. And if that CPA gets a set of books that they can look at, and especially the first time they're going to be more critical, but if in a very short period of time and after looking at a few sets of books that you have worked on, they see that your work is reliable, and what that looks like from the CPA's perspective is they can run a balance sheet, they can run a P&L, and they don't see things that raise questions. They don't see negative balances on the balance sheet other than where they expect to see them, like accumulated depreciation. Those kinds of things, when you make their life easier, the next time they get a set of messy books, they're going to think of you. They're going to say, you know what, I wish Yvette was working on this client's books for me. You know what, I can make that happen. Let me call Yvette, let me call the client and say, hey, you know what, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. She can help you make the books sing. And that's how I've gotten a ton of business. That's what's paid my mortgage, is one CPA in particular who I've been very close with. The guy's like a father to me. He's a mentor on all sorts of levels to me, and he refers me a ton of business every year.
One thing I think is really critical, my degree is not in accounting, it's in history. So I basically made an academic pit stop for a year at a community college. It took a year of basic accounting, and I think it's really important to get it from the foundation, because there are a lot of people that know QuickBooks, but they don't really know accounting that well, and the tendency is to rely on the software. But I think it puts you 5 steps ahead of everyone if you know that this can't possibly be right because of my understanding of accounting, where a lot of people are self-taught and they've got bits and pieces of knowledge, but they don't have a overall understanding. And I think that you don't necessarily need to have a degree in accounting, but if you had a basic year of accounting, at least getting through the income statement and the balance sheet, and so you have a foundation to work with, and so you're not, you may know QuickBooks software, but you really need to know what's behind the scenes and how it works, and what the journal entries are, and does this even make sense? Do these numbers even make sense before I put them out? Otherwise, you'll get in the situation with your Harvard guy that the software said,
this is the whole premise on which I built schoolofbookkeeping.com, was that I recognize that a lot of bookkeepers know QuickBooks, but they don't really understand the accounting fundamentals.
Well, then they're clerks.
Right, but that's what many bookkeepers are, is they don't...
They're clerks and they think they're bookkeepers, right?
Yeah, and that's the problem, is because they go out there and say, oh, I'm a bookkeeper, or worse, I'm a bookkeeping professional, when they really don't have the know-how. They know how to fill out the forms in QuickBooks. So when I wrote the original flagship course, Bookkeeping Fundamentals with QuickBooks, the whole idea was to teach the basics, the debits and credits. The first couple of chapters don't even talk about QuickBooks. I teach debits and credits and T accounts and normal balances, because at the end of the day, the bookkeeping professional who takes the time to understand what the CPA, or for that matter anyone who's preparing the tax returns, is looking for and needs to see and needs to understand, then you're like Dennis said, you're 5 steps ahead of where other bookkeepers are, because you understand what the balance sheet should look like, what the P&L should look like, and God forbid you actually even understand the statement of cash flows. That's why I did understanding your financial statements, because first you do bookkeeping fundamentals, then you actually start looking at, now that I understand the basics, really as a bookkeeping professional, I think here's how I like to look at it when I put my bookkeeping hat on for a client, is I try and visualize. We talked about this in the last couple of weeks, where we talked about how to review and clean up a QuickBooks file. When I'm taking on a new client, I'm talking to them and I'm hearing them describe their business. I try to visualize what their balance sheet and P&L might look like. And then at the end of the day, my job is to go to work and making sure I can make that picture come together. I'm sorry, Sarah, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, when you talk about obsession, I think the obsession should be, were there any adjusting entries done at year end? After the CPA or the tax accountant, not everybody's a CPA, but once the tax accountant is done, and I tell you what, sometimes it's like pulling teeth. I don't know why tax accountants don't do this automatically and just think that the books are they're miraculously going to have the starting balance that they want at the end of the next year. But for last year, you give them all the work, and then I want the work and trial balance, any adjusting entries, if possible, the copy of the tax return, the 1120, so I can test the Schedule L. And then the obsession should be no adjusting entries. Depreciation, maybe. So
right, well, yeah, you have to do that.
Every time there's an adjusting entry, there's your opportunity to learn. Why was this entry here? What was the thought process? Because you can move from being a clerk to a bookkeeper, but if you're going to be in business for yourself, that means you're a public, here we go, public bookkeeper.
Quotes.
Okay?
She did the quotes.
There's a quote. So if you're going to put yourself out there to the public and say, I'm out for hire, you've got to know at least a basic understanding of the different kinds of entities.
Yeah.
Because a sole proprietorship will post things different than a partnership, than an S corp, than a corp. And then, so it's not only just industries of service industries and inventory and retail and all that. You also have to know what kind of entity they have. And then underneath that, you have to know basic, how does payroll work? Does the sole proprietorship get on the payroll? I had a question asked me, he wanted to know how to set the owner up on the payroll. You have to know sole proprietors don't go on the payroll, So the ones that get fresh out of school and go, how do I get clients? I say, you need to go work. And
well, that's right. One of the people in the group actually said that. They said, I'm a student, and I'm now, and I think kind of funny, actually. I mean, it's very sweet, but she had said, I think, Sarah, you responded to her. She said something like, I'm fresh out of school. I just learned the accounting equation, assets equals liabilities plus equity. I think I'm ready to start consulting with clients. What do you guys think?
I love your enthusiasm. I really love your enthusiasm.
That was a great answer,
underscore what Sarah's saying here. So the thing that we're talking about now is in terms of, again, remember the core question for today is, how do I build my bookkeeping or accounting practices? Actually having the skills. That's key. That's a very important qualifier.
That's number one.
Now, you guys ready to see my outline?
Yes. Let's see your outline. Let's see how close we are.
All right. So here's the thing. And before I show it to you, what I want to say something. So of course I wrote this outline, keeping in mind this day and age. I've asked you guys to kind of go back in time to when we all started our businesses. Things are different now. And when these people had posted in Facebook and said, well, I've moved and now I have to start over, my immediate thought was, why do you have to start over just because you've moved?
Take them with you.
Right? Why can't you take them with you? And it's obviously because they're going to see their clients in person and they're not doing it remotely. So the first thing that I put in my outline was start building a remote practice so that if you ever move again, you never ever have to worry about this ever again. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll show you guys my outline. So start building a remote practice, and what that means is you're going to have to learn how to use some remote software, and you might have to spend a little money, but there's free stuff in there too. Now I know there's more than what I've listed here, but I've covered some of the. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I got squirreled. It says Google Help Out. I thought it was a typo, but it doesn't.
Nope, I'll get to that.
Okay.
I'll get to that. So So you have to know how to use some software that will enable you to access people's computers remotely. Join.me is a free one. The one that I
Dropbox up there.
What?
You don't like Dropbox. Cloud
Dropbox
storage.
doesn't allow me to access your computer remotely. That's going to
That's
come
not
up.
remote.
No,
That's
under cloud storage.
Oh, we're
It's-
jumping.
It's item number 5 under cloud storage, Dropbox.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
So, and again, I'm not putting everything here. I'm putting the first ones that came to my mind. So Join.me is a free option for remote access, right? It's a great way to start, especially if you have no budget for this sort of thing. Adobe Connect is what I use. A lot of people ask me, what do you use? Adobe Connect is what I use. You can't buy it directly. You have to go through a reseller. So the reseller through whom I buy it is called Meeting One, and so I've listed the web address there. Citrix has a whole suite of collaboration tools that, as far as I'm concerned, if you have a bookkeeping or accounting practice, existing or starting, you need to go check this site out and make sure you get familiar with all of their products. That's where you're going to find GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, and all those sorts of things. Go to My PC. And learn how these tools work, because they all sort of address the remote access issue a little differently, right? You can set up your client with a Go to My PC so that they don't have to be there while you access their computer, but keep in mind that ties up a computer because you're on it, nobody else can be on it. So it's important to understand these tools and how to use them and what specific sort of problems they solve. And then Google Helpouts is sort of a newer kid on the block, so to speak. And again, I had started recording these videos, and I'm going to be re-recording them, but I'll give you a little sneak peek at what I was saying about Google Helpouts is that if I wasn't already using Adobe Connect, I'd be checking out Google Helpouts. Google Helpouts actually gives you a platform through which you can accept payment and then provide the remote session, which is what I do with Adobe Connect. Right? In my case, most of my clients come in the door, they pay first, and then they schedule a session. And that's another app that I should have actually included here called Time Trade, is what I use for the remote scheduling. And then I provide the session through Adobe Connect. Adobe Connect is powerful. It's also expensive. So it's usually cost prohibitive, especially for those who are just starting out. The first year I used Adobe Connect, I put it on a credit card. And I said it's going to pay for itself. I'll generate enough revenue from it to pay off the balance. And it did. So remote software, that's, I think, key to building a bookkeeping practice in this day and age. And also it solves the problem of ever having to worry if you move. Yep. Then we have the cloud storage and collaboration products. You have to know these. And I purposely listed ShareFile and SmartVault first because these are the enterprise level document storage and collaboration services. These are the ones that have the SOC 1, 2, and 3 certifications from the AI CPA in terms of the security protocols that they have in place. None of the others do that I've listed here.
Yeah.
ShareFile and SmartVault. Now, they're a little more expensive, but you're paying for the security. You're paying for the increased security. Evernote is a tool that, as far as I'm concerned, no business can do without this day and age. And it can be used for, it's a cloud-based app. It can be used to store documents. I think of it as the document storage solution that I use for sort of work in process, things that I'm working on, because I can drop an Excel spreadsheet onto an Evernote note, and I can make notes on that note, reminding myself for the next time that I go back to it, where I was at and what I was doing and what I still need to do, that kind of thing. So I love the context that Evernote allows me to provide around what I'm doing with regard to a project that I'm working on.
Is the Evernote security as robust as, say, SmartVault?
I don't think so. I don't think they have those certifications. I mean, I have faith in their security, or I wouldn't use it, but I don't think they have the level of security in terms of certifications that ShareFile and SmartVault have.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say
tax returns. Yeah, I use SmartVault for tax returns. I think it's really hypersensitive for security.
Mm-hmm. And of course, SmartVault, as we all know, allows the integration of, attaching the documents to QuickBooks, transactions, customers, vendors. It has the whole document attachment, and it's in the cloud, which is better than using QuickBooks' own built-in feature, which just makes a copy of the document locally. So SmartVault is probably top choice if you're concerned with attaching documents to transactions in QuickBooks. Google Drive, of course, that's where I actually keep all of my documents for Nerd Enterprises, and that's where I keep a lot of the files for my clients. ShareFile is something I use more to get documents from the clients. One of the things I love about ShareFile is that I can create a folder and generate a link that very specifically for that folder allows the client to upload something directly into that folder, and I can have notifications set so that I'm notified once they've uploaded a file. So I love that infrastructure that ShareFile gives us that allows me to manage the flow of where documents are going and coming and so on. So one of the things I love about ShareFile. And then, of course, we have Dropbox, which I have last because it has had security breaches. There was one day a couple years ago, I remember, where apparently you didn't need a password. If you had somebody's username in Dropbox, you had access to everything with no password. It was a glitch, which they fixed, and they were good about it. And all these companies are, because they have to be very good about addressing these problems. They'll be out of business in a day if they're not careful. But as far as I know, and I'm no expert, I'm not a programmer or a designer, but as far as I know, Dropbox, the impression I've gotten is that their security is probably the least reliable out of all of this. So that's the impression I've gotten. Anybody have any comments so far?
I'm waiting until you get down to network with people online because you don't have the Abo Hangout top.
I have it as choice E. My apologies. Some of this, when I did this part, it was really in order of importance. Further down, I think it was more in order of this is when it popped into my head. But I will definitely address that.
I've gotten great clients from. Go ahead.
So number 2 here, make sure your web presence is significant.
And you put about me first.
I
did.
About me.
I did and the reason about me is first is because it's the place where I've listed, and I jokingly put this up here. Let me share my about.me page.
I have an about me page.
I didn't know I didn't know anything about
it. Do you put it under Nerd Enterprises, or do you have it under Seth David?
It's Seth David, and here's the thing about about.me. And
it connects with everything.
It connects everything. And the way I just sort of summed it up as I recently updated it, and I noticed you could now put a video on it, which of course for me is perfect.
Oh, awesome.
It describes who I am, but I wrote this. This is where you can see every ring in my online circus.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it.
Do you do it in about me?
I know how to do that.
Yeah, I want to do the video.
The beauty of this is that when I print business cards, right, which I didn't even put that in my outline because I probably thought it was so obvious, but I should mention it. When I print business cards, and I have to turn off my screen sharing for a minute so I can show you my business card really quick, I have the about.me link here. So guess what? Let me wait till it comes into...
Yeah, cool.
Because now, if something changes about my contact information, and I'm having trouble getting this into focus, I don't have to worry about printing new business cards because the business card has about.me. So I just change it on about.me. And basically, I tell people, go to about.me, and that's where you'll find every way of possibly contacting me that exists. I do have the main ones, of course. I have nerdenterprises.com, and my email, I don't expect those to ever change. And you've got to put your phone number on your business card, without a doubt. That's another thing I don't expect to change much.
Do you do an about.me for your personal name and then do another one for your business name?
No, everything. It's all just me because it's sort of like my business. It's like my online business card. Yeah. So that is me. This is my business card. It's Seth David. And then when you get here, you see, I have nerdenterprises.com, but I also have schoolofbookkeeping.com and, all the other stuff I do. So think of about.me as a business card where it would have your name and title on it. Yeah.
I like that. I had actually a CPA I hadn't talked to in a long time called me at home in the middle of the day, and I went, you didn't call my business. And he said, well, I couldn't remember your business name. So he just, he looked up, in the good old-fashioned phone book, Sarah Laylaw, which is one of the reasons why when I got married a couple of years ago, I didn't take Woodruff, because I said nobody will be able to find.
Well, it's a
good name. Your name becomes very important. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Seth, I have an About Me page, and every time I go in there, it says claim your name. I've already claimed it.
Make sure you log in, because it logs you out very quickly if you go off the page. So make sure you're logged in, and because it assumes if it sees you as a guest and you're not logged in, it assumes that they're trying to advertise to you, basically. So.
I've never heard of About Me. How do people know about looking there?
Well, you just tell them, or like I said, you put it on your business card, so that's how they know to go there. Plus, About.me has its own built-in community of other members and users of About.me, where you can favorite a person's About.me page, or you can like it, or you can connect to them directly through it. So,
and that's what I use as a link underneath my name on all my Google messages.
Yep.
All my Google emails.
You should, when you can, you should do a demo on About Me, because
I just signed up, and it put some funky pictures on here. Just to customize your page.
Let's see it, Sarah. So, and that's why I put About.me first, because, and there are other services like this. There's Xeme and some others. I just found About.me and liked it, and so that becomes sort of my home place where I tell people, here's where you go to find me on the web, and all the different places where you can. Of course, I also have a page in my website called Community, which does the same thing. So, you should have a page on your website that does the same thing. But I like having the About.me because it's in a separate place with links pointing to your website, which is good for SEO. So, so About.me. Of course, make sure you have a good, like Yvette talked about, a good professional-looking website. This is your online resume when you're in business for yourself. When people go there, they're going to get an impression of you in less than 10 seconds, and that impression is going to drive whether or not they stay. So it's really important to have a website that's eye-catching, that gets their attention, and that makes it clear that they're in a place where they found what they're looking for. So I think that's key. And then, of course, there's the social media. Here's what I want to do, because we're past 9 o'clock, and I can see viewers are dropping off, and I know everybody has to get on to their day. And I'm sure people really want, to, get a bit of this part. So let's continue this next week. Next week we'll continue. We'll kind of start back from the top of the outline, and we'll start with the outline near the beginning. I thought it was very valuable, though, to hear from all of you. Oh, look, Sync Manager has an error.
Yeah, shock of all shock.
But I thought it would be valuable, and I believe it has proven to be valuable to get all of your input on this. And just so you can see, I wasn't lying. I really did take notes, and I'm going to think in terms of how to build this back into my outline to the extent that I hadn't, covered some of this. And then now we have a week for everybody to think about this and provide more feedback between this week and next week on this.
Everybody go sign up for
About me.
You see this picture? You see this picture?
Yeah, I like that.
I love that picture, Sarah.
What a way to get me to customize.
Sarah's a graffiti artist.
You can change that.
So go sign up for About.me and then show us your page next week. That'll be a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right, folks. So don't forget Gina's Hangout today at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Gina, anything special or exciting we're talking about, or is it just open?
Open session today. Whatever happens, happens.
Open season on Gina's Hangout today.
That's
Come join
right.
us.
I do have Avalera the following week.
Did you see that thing from Intuit? They're doing a testing in, I think, Kansas City or some where they're actually reimbursing the ProAdvisors for giving free conference or free, the free consulting. Have you seen that?
They're doing what?
No.
I thought it was Kansas City. It might be someplace else, but they were going to reimburse the ProAdvisors for people that had signed up for some free consulting with the ProAdvisor. They're going to reimburse because the ProAdvisor. Yeah, I'm not sure at what rate.
And I can't even imagine how you'd be able to track that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see if I can find it, but it was kind of, because I guess a lot of pro-advisors are sort of resistant, especially experienced ones, to giving away their time for free. So.
Well, of course, you have to pay the bills and make a living.
Yeah, quit giving time away for free. Quick question.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll see you next week. We'll continue this on how to grow your accounting or bookkeeping practice online, offline, everywhere around. So if you haven't already, don't forget to grab an About.me page. I want to see them. We're going to do show and tell next week. We're going to look at everybody's About.me page.
Great. There went my afternoon.
All right, we'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.